It's such a relief to rest in the present moment. To be here now, not sometime in the future, but right now. Our intention is to be present now in an ongoing sort of way. And we quickly discover that there are gaps. There's this way that we fall into trances. This emotion or that emotion, this important thing to worry about or that. And then there's realizing, oh, this is thinking. This is worrying, this is planning, this is desire, this is aversion. This is awareness, this is what notices. The vegetable garden is producing a lot of zucchinis and tomatoes and cucumbers, onions, a few ears of corn. Not long ago, there was the preparing the soil and adding compost and some fertilizer. And then there were the seeds and the starts. And now it's the time of harvest. The human body-mind is an ecological system. It is the earth, alive. It too can be cultivated. What we do in the present moment conditions the next moment. And it's all very natural, nothing forced. We cultivate awareness, mindfulness, the capacity of remembering to remember to be awake. We cultivate concentration, the ability to stay focused on one thing at a time. And so we select, perhaps, very commonly, the breathing. And we notice how it begins, how it rises to fullness, how it ends, how there's a gap, and then how it happens again and again and again. We strengthen mindfulness every time we notice the wandering mind. We also strengthen curiosity. What is going on? Inside, outside. We strengthen patience. We plant seeds of equanimity, accepting things exactly as they are. We plant seeds of tranquility. We have a few moments of tranquility and notice, this is it. This is quiet. This is ease. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. Including our family, our friends, our relatives. Including all those people whose lives are desperate right now. All those who are riding the crest of success. All those beings who will be born today and all those beings who will die today. Let us call to the altar of our hearts our teachers and mentors. I invoke the presence of Ruth Denison, and my mother and father who taught me so much about basic goodness, about working, about power tools, about honesty, about skiing. Let us bow in gratitude to all those who have helped us on our way. Well, except for one complete crash of Zoom, everything was perfect. Jim is teaching Qigong this Saturday. Want to say anything about that, Jim?
Kind of a busy week. I'm teaching tonight for Doug.
Ah.
And then Saturday from 9 to 1, I'll be moving mindfully. I invite you to join me. And listen to some poetry and sit quietly like we do this in the mornings. Just resting in our... What is it that Ruth says? Resting in our precious...
Darling, the beauty of your being.
The beauty of your being.
Rest in the beauty of your being, yeah.
So I invite the beauty of your being to our gathering on Saturday.
This evening, I will be at the Chinese Garden. Anne Nato Campbell, who was one of our great benefactresses, she gave us $250,000 to work on the center, to get the wheelchair ramps in and all this stuff that we will someday do. Her mother died at 98, and Anne has rented the Chinese Garden, and I am the officiant at this wonderful occasion, actually. It's going to close with sundown, with candles being floated on the little lake at the Chinese Garden. So I'm looking forward to that. A little scary, but it'll be fine. You might receive in the mail today, if you didn't already, a letter from myself and the PIMC board, and from us to us, saying that the center needs some funding, and there's a way you can really participate. You are already part of it, of course, but if there's any way that you can, I'd just say this: read the letter and feel into your heart. It's a very important cause. So, it's a causes and conditions. How interesting to call it a cause. Very Buddhist. So, my friends, is something happening in your life you'd like to share or need to share with community? For any newcomers, please just unmute and speak. And maybe let's leave a little room for folks who don't share frequently or ever. I don't know if any of you remember Bonnie Wilson. Do you remember Bonnie, Jim? She was our bookkeeper for PIMC for 2 or 3 years. She's at OHSU again and probably is on her way to departure. I'm sending her some flowers today. Can't visit. Very kind-hearted person. She helped me a bunch when Ruth died, and I had to do all that sorting out of Ruth's financial circumstances, and she was really helpful to me then too. I guess I should mention also, in case anyone has missed it, that I'll be here tomorrow morning, and then I will be gone for 10 days on vacation to Eastern Oregon with Jennifer. For the most part, shutting down all my email and electronics. I actually have 2 paper books. Paper books. Weird.
Robert, when you mentioned the candle ceremony at the Chinese gardens, it stirred up a memory from 9/11. After spending the day in shock with all of the horror of 9/11 in 2001, I got out of the house and away from the screen and went out to a park near my house where there was a pond, and I had a routine where I would walk around the pond a couple times on my daily constitutional. And when I got there, there were two teenagers, probably 14, 15 years old, and they had a whole collection of paper plates and tiny little candles, and they were lighting the candles and sending them out onto the pond.
Wow.
And there was just a little breeze that would just move them across, and the whole pond was illuminated by about 30 or 40 tiny little candles. It was so comforting, and so I just felt so honored to be around these young people who, instead of getting depressed and anxious about the current news, current at that time, they were creating a new story, a story of beauty and peace and loveliness. It was amazing. What a gift. I think of those. I wonder where they are today. There must be some special people. But anyway, that ceremony that's part of the Chinese gardens is a very healing process in grief and loss. I'm glad you're going to be able to participate.
Me too.
Robert, speaking or not speaking, this is an extraordinary space we have here in meditation, that it is equally valid that someone can be speaking or not speaking, and it's fine either way, and that we have that space to acknowledge the incredible being of each other that way.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
On Saturday, the board and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee and the teachers spent some hours with Shelley Graff, who's a teacher at the soon to be one of the co-guiding teachers at Minneapolis. I think it's called Common Ground, very big meditation center. Anyway, she shared with us at the beginning a greeting that she learned from Ruth King, who's one of the powerful writers in the field of, I don't know what to call it, but diversity, equity, and inclusion. So anyway, she had this beautiful greeting, and goes like this. So we would turn to one another and say, if I didn't belong to you, I wouldn't be here. If you didn't belong to me, you wouldn't have come. My heart and your heart are very old friends. If I didn't belong to you, I wouldn't be here. If you didn't belong to me, you wouldn't have come. My heart and your heart are very old friends. If I didn't belong to you, I wouldn't be here. If you didn't belong to me, you wouldn't have come. My heart and your heart are very old friends. Isn't that something? If I didn't belong to you, I wouldn't be here. If you didn't belong to me, you wouldn't have come. My heart and your heart are very, very old friends. One last time. If I didn't belong to you, I wouldn't be here. If you didn't belong to me, you wouldn't have come. My heart and your heart are very old friends. That's so pretty. Better than pretty.
Good morning, Robert and Senga.
I hear. Who is it?
Sandra.
Hello, Sandra. Oh, there you are. Hi.
I thought I'd share an experience I had yesterday with two people that I'll be working with next week. They're both Indigenous people from the Merritt, Nicola Valley area where the fires are, the wildfires. And what I'm thinking about is in speaking with these men, how resilient they are. And also, you know, how do I practice reconciliation and how do I practice compassion? And, you know, there was the business of setting up the logistics for the inspection next week, but there was also the working on connection and hearing what their circumstances are during the wildfires. And so it's quite something. One man, his help has been helping his family move, evacuate because of the evacuation orders. And he hasn't had to evacuate, but the power was out for a couple of days on his reserve. And then there was a bear in his apricot tree outside the house. He's, you know, not wanting to, have conflict with the bear, but what to do about the bear. And then the other man, he has 5 children, and the house is packed up, ready to go if there's an order. And the resiliency of both of these men, I kind of gave them an out. It seemed to me, wow, with these circumstances, they don't need to be going to work next week. But no, they're both thumbs up, ready to go. Like, whoa, wow, such resiliency. It's just quite something. So I've been thinking about reflecting on that.
Thank you, Sandra. I don't think that the image on my screen before me is any different than it's ever been. But this morning, this now, the clarity and beauty of your faces, it's just leaping out at me. And for those that aren't faced, your names, it's like it's so, I don't know, it's very poignant right now. How beautiful. It's funny, I'm noticing internally there's an image of, oh, it's here actually. I don't need to get it. There's two pieces of paper that have three different lists actually on them. And they are my list that I have been tasked by Jennifer to get done before she's working today and tomorrow. And I have this morning free and then all day tomorrow to pack. And but I have my trip to the drugstore and so on. But as I'm sitting here, very present, then this picture of a piece of paper with lists on it starts moving around. It's like, you have to do me. So funny. I better do it too, or I'll be in trouble. Makes me think of another thing. which is, if you've never read the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, I highly recommend it. It'll change your life. He also wrote Being Human, which is really worth changing your life, or Being Mortal, which is also, I've given that to all my doctors. When I go see a doctor, I generally give them that book. Because they need to read it. To be a physician and not have read that would be malpractice, I think. Because it's his story of what it was like as his father was dying, and how difficult it was for him to face the reality of his father's death. So anyway, but the Checklist Manifesto resulted in many things, and one is we have a 250 item checklist for this trip to Eastern Oregon, and it's great because we know we got it. We know we have all the little tidbits.
Robert, peace and long life on your travel with Jennifer to Eastern Oregon.
Live long and prosper, Head.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. I forgot to say also that these gatherings will continue under the beautiful hand and guidance of Jim Dalton and the other teachers. And Sunday mornings will also be, someone will be teaching. Well, is there anything that's, hi Neil, anything that's wishing to be said that you'd like to?
Hi, Robert and Sangha. This is Steffi.
Hi, Steffi.
So, I'm aware of the time, and this has been on my mind, so we don't have to discuss it. I'm just going to free float it into the ether, and then maybe we could discuss it after your trip or something. So, because it's not like a 2-minute deal. Basically, I have a lot of people in my life, ages like 22 to 27, who have high trauma histories, are anti-vax, very suspicious of the vaccine, and going on a lot of bad information. And, you know, they haven't had the opportunity maybe to go to school, or they learn differently, or, and, you know, I'm just slowly trying to just, just for like every 10 things that are like really out there that they say, just try to like, see if I can work on just helping them look at one of them in a small way. But anyway, I would love to, you had said like weeks ago, if anybody's like against the vax, or, you know, isn't able and wants to just have an honest conversation, to reach out. And for me, that's not my scenario, but I'm just trying to figure out how to just slowly and compassionately support and assist these young people with not fully developed brains and high trauma histories.
And for some of us, it's a family member or maybe a whole family. And you're right, it is such a big topic. And it's not just around the vaccine stuff. You know, we human beings are capable of believing anything. And mass hysteria goes through the culture every now and then and creates craziness. So how do we stay loving? I guess one thing for me is the increasing understanding is that my happiness does not depend upon anybody else or any other circumstances. So to be with those beautiful young people and to love them, and primarily it's to accept where they are. Nobody changes their mind unless they're loved, right? So thank you, Steffi, and we I think we'll be dealing with this kind of issue for a long time. We always have been, but there's some, yeah.
I had a feeling that you weren't going to come up with a quick 1-minute fix, but just in case you would have, I wanted to ask before your trip. So thank you.
Well, I think that, the 1-minute fix, what came to mind as you were talking was, I suppose I could get in trouble for this. I have to be careful these days. You remember My Fair Lady? How to handle a woman is to love her, love her, love her. How to handle a human is to love them, to love us, and to be patient and compassionate and yeah. I had a friend, haven't heard from him in years. In fact, I heard he might have passed away. Eric Kolvig was his name. And he had a saying that was very potent. You know what samsara is? Samsara, the wheel of birth and death, the whole of life. He said, samsara is broken, and there's no fixing it. How do you like that? I really thought in my deluded 20-somethings years, I really thought we were going to eliminate poverty. I thought that technology was going to bring an end to war. That we'd have enough for everybody, and we'd now that we could see the world from space, we would transcend borders. We'd awaken to the absurdity of personal ownership, and I was wrong. The world goes on. Human beings are human beings. However, there are individuals and communities where waking up is really happening. And it's happening a lot. And all you have to do is look at us. Look at yourself. Look at who you are now versus when COVID began. It's quite remarkable how waking up is possible. But it's really an individual medicine. It's not a political. I tuned in. I should have to be careful yakking on here, but I tuned in on Fox News for 5 minutes, less than that. And how they're attacking Biden for this debacle in Afghanistan. And I realized it's always the same fight. They just go on and on and on and on and on. It doesn't help me to engage in it. Well, I need to go. So shall we bhavatu sabe mangalam